What if Frederick the Great became 100 years old? Frederick II, or better known as Frederick the Great, was king in Prussia, later King of Prussia from 1740 to 1786. He would turn Prussia from a mere fiefdom within the Holy Roman Empire into a great European power by defeating Austria in the three Silesian Wars and taking the wealthy region. Together with Russia and Austria, he would carve up Poland, Lithuania, and take Royal Prussia. But he also reformed his nation from within, like by introducing the potato, or investing in arts or literature. But 20 years later, his nephew, once removed Frederick Wilhelm III, would see the biggest tragedy for Prussia by losing the Battle of Jena, and worst, leading to France under Napoleon Bonaparte, who stated that if Frederick the Great were to be alive, he'd lose, occupying Prussia and taking over half of its territories in the Treaty of Tilsit in 1807. But what if that didn't happen? What if Frederick the Great became 100 years old? In this timeline, Frederick the Great is, for some reason you may chose, still kicking in his 90s despite of being in the early 19th century. In this timeline, Prussia doesn't join the War of the First Coalition. After the 7 Years' War, in which 6 horses he rode died, Frederick was skeptic about war. But since Prussia signed a white peace with France in our own timeline, nothing would have changed here. Napoleon would still defeat the Austrians and visit Egypt, while the Second Coalition fails to take down revolutionary France. Napoleon then becomes first consul and emperor. He still destroys Austria and Russia in Ulm and Austerlitz, and dissolves the Holy Roman Empire and replaces it with the Confederation of the Rhine. France, now being an essential threat to Prussia, pushes Frederick the Great to declare war on France, but unlike Frederick Wilhelm III, he waits for the Russian reinforcements. For the sake of simplicity, let's say Russia send as many forces as Prussia did. The two sides meet at Jena and Worstedt. In Jena, 40,000 French troops led by Napoleon himself counter 55,000 Prussians led by the Prince of Hohenlohe and 55,000 Russians led by von Bennigsen. In Worstedt, 26,000 French troops under devout counter 64,000 Prussians led by Frederick the Great himself and 64,000 Russians led by Barclay de Tolly. In Worstedt, 128,000 strong army complete destroys the army of devout, with the whole army being killed or becoming POWs. The coalition faces 3,000 deaths at most. Meanwhile, Napoleon wasn't been able to crush his enemies, but now with Frederick the Great and his gross army coming, he needs to defeat the Prince of Hohenlohe fast. His plan is to divide his enemies and crush both separately, and then do the same with Frederick. It was unlikely to succeed, but it was his only chance. He splits the Russians and Prussians and faces the Prince of Hohenlohe, but soon later the Russians and the gross army arrive. Napoleon had to abandon the battle, and a lot of his forces were encircled, leaving him with 16,000 of his original 40,000. Then crossing the Weser, another half of his forces were captured, and then another half crossing the Rhine. He was left with 10% of his original force, while Davout's army doesn't exist anymore. With Napoleon now in France, the coalition forces retake the German states, many of them switching sides, and the Confederation of the Rhine collapses. Austria too joined the war and started a campaign in Italy. In spring, the Allied forces launch an offensive into France itself, and Napoleon meets Frederick near Aachen, where both Charlemagne and Otto the Great resided. The Battle of Aachen would be a final showdown between both military minds, and it would be the biggest battle of the whole Napoleonic Wars. Initially, not much happened, and it looked like Napoleon may win this, but then the Netherlands declared independence. Russia immediately sends its army into the Netherlands, as it was a coordinated declaration of independence. They push into modern-day Belgium, and at the same time Austria launched an offensive into Alsace. Napoleon realized he is on the verge of encirclement, orders a retreat, but it was hopeless, and the Austrians and Russians meet at the Maas and Mosel River, and Napoleon is besieged in the town of Tulle. Napoleon was forced to surrender, but since he surrendered to the Prussians, and not the British, he is killed. The French Empire is dissolved, and the Bourbon monarchy returns. Meanwhile, Prussia annexes all the German states that weren't in the Confederation of the Rhine, with the exception being Saxony and the Thuringian states. But they take Berg, Nassau and Hesse. Saxony, the Thuringian states, Baden-Württemberg, Bavaria and Austria re-established the Holy Roman Empire with this time 6 instead of 8 electors. Bavaria still owns Palatinate with Prussia the rest of the Rhineland. Unlike in the Vienna Conference, Denmark still owns Norway, Sweden still owns Finland, Austria still owns West Galicia and Prussia still owns South Prussia and New East Prussia. In 1812 Frederick the Great dies at the age of 100, having turned a small fiefdom into a true North German great power. He is succeeded by his nephew, once removed Frederick Wilhelm, as Frederick Wilhelm II. In this timeline, Spain and Portugal aren't weakened by the French invasion and hold on to their colonies. In 1830 France still experiences a revolution leading to a constitutional monarchy, and then another one in 1848 in which a republic is established. Louis Napoleon would then establish the Second French Empire. In 1848 most of Europe experienced some kind of revolution, and Prussia used it to declare war on the Holy Roman Empire. They crushed the Austrians and in the peace treaty annexed Bavaria, Baden-Württemberg, Thuringia and Saxony. The Kingdom of Prussia was transformed into the German Empire, while the Holy Roman Empire was dissolved for good. France and Germany formed the dual alliance, as they have the same interests and didn't fight each other. Meanwhile Austria, Spain, UK and Russia form an alliance to contain them. France demanded from the Ottoman Empire to be the protector of Christians within the Ottoman Empire, a title Russia used to own. This was followed by a Russian, and later French, ultimatum. In the end the Ottoman Empire chose to ally with Paris. In October 1853 Russia invaded the Ottoman Empire, starting the First World War. Spain tried to break through in the Pyrenees, but were stopped. Meanwhile Germany seized quick victories and occupies Galicia, Bohemia and northern Austria. The Austrians hold a defensive line at the Carpathians and Alps. Piedmont, Sardinia declared war on Austria and invades their Italian allies. Soon later the Austrian Empire collapses and the French and German can now easier supply their ally. Russia, being poor and backwards, would be crushed by the Ottomans and Germans, while France crushes Spain. The United Kingdom signs a white peace. The Ottoman Empire puppets the Kingdom of Hungary under Archduke Joseph Karl Palatine of Hungary. Germany annexes Bohemia and Austria. Italy annexes Tuscany, Modena and Reggio Parma and Lombardy, Venetia, and becomes the Kingdom of Italy. France annexes Catalonia and puppets the Kingdom of Spain. Germany establishes in South Prussia, New East Prussia and Galicia and Lodomeria the Kingdom of Poland under Prince Charles. From former Russian territories they puppet the Kingdom of Lithuania under Prince Albert, Kingdom of Belarus under Prince Leopold and Kingdom of Ukraine under his brother Karl. Germany annexes the United Baltic Duchy. The Ottoman Empire regains Bessarabia and Yadison and establishes the Crimean Khanate under Petro Skoropadsky, Kingdom of Georgia under Constantine V and Kingdom of Azerbaijan under Abdulaziz, brother of Abdülmecid I. Sweden, which also joined, got Karelia and Kola. After the war the alliance breaks down. France forms the Entente with Italy and Spain, while Germany forms the Reichspakt with its puppet states. Russia and the United Kingdom formed the Anglo-Russian Pact. In 1864, just 2 years after Frederick Wilhelm III died and Wilhelm I became emperor, Germany invaded Denmark-Norway, and took Schleswig-Holstein and united with Luxembourg. With Circassia being an informal puppet to the Ottoman Empire, a genocide to its people would never happen. Italy invaded two Sicilies in 1861, but France made sure the Papal State remains independent, which sours their relations. In 1873 Napoleon III dies and his son becomes emperor as Napoleon IV. He died in 1879, and so his second cousin Victor becomes emperor as Napoleon V. The Berlin Conference may still happen. The Ottomans would keep Tunisia, Libya, Egypt, Sudan and Eritrea. Germany, being a more powerful and without Bismarck a more aggressive state, would push for Uganda, Kenya. France would own Spanish Morocco while Germany owns Spanish Guinea. But other than that, Africa is like in our own. In 1888 Wilhelm I and Frederick III die and Wilhelm II becomes emperor. In 1911, over a crisis in Morocco, the Second World War broke out. Germany invaded Belgium, bringing in the United Kingdom, but unlike Helmuth von Moltke the Younger, Alfred von Schlieffen is successful and encircles Paris. He was successful because he didn't send some of his forces to fight in the Eastern Front, which Moltke did despite of being told not to. Soon later France surrenders, while the Brits retreat in Normandy and Brittany. Spain declared independence and invaded Catalonia and joined an alliance with Germany. Italy then switches sides like they always do. By the time France was defeated, Russia just finished its mobilization. They started an offensive into Belarus and the Donbass, but were beaten back by the Germans. In spring 1912, Germany launches an invasion into the Russian Empire. They defeated them in battle, and even took Moscow in late summer. In the end, the Russian Empire had to make peace. In the Treaty of Versailles, France loses Alsace-Lorraine to Germany and Belgium loses Belgian-Luxembourg. In exchange they get Dunkirk, but become a German vassal state under Prince Adalbert as Albert II. Spain gets Catalonia and Roussillon, and Italy gets Corsica. Germany takes French Morocco, Upper Volta, Dahomey, Ubangi, Shari, Congo, Gabon, Somaliland, Madagascar, Indochina, and New Caledonia. They also take Belgian Congo. In the Treaty of Moscow, Germany establishes the Don Kingdom south of the Don and Volga River under Prince August Wilhelm and Tsardom of Russia west of the Volga River under Prince Emil Friedrich. In 1913, the United Kingdom sues for peace, but as the Easter Uprising just begun, Germany negotiated for the independence of Ireland, all of it. Ireland also becomes a kingdom under Joachim of Prussia. In the following years, an anti-Germany coalition emerges. Russia wants Moscow back, France wants revenge, Great Britain is revengeful, Italy wants Trentino, and Japan wants German possessions in the Pacific. In Russia, the monarchy was overthrown and a republic is established, but after a coup by Kornilov becomes a stratocracy. After his death in 1937, Anton Denikin becomes leader of Russia. In France and Great Britain, communist uprisings in 1913 and 1926 see the creation of the French Commune and Union of Britain. Italy, meanwhile, is one of the last standing democracies in Europe. In East Asia, Germany supports the Manchu coup, who are thanks to this more successful. Both Zhang Zhaolin and Yan Zishan switch sides for as long as they get to rule over Manchuria and Shaanxi respectively. The Anhui clique and Zili clique collapses. Shaanxi annexes Shaanxi, and the Qing government takes all lands north of the Yangtze River. The rest become the Hunan clique under Zhao Hengtai, and Nanjing clique under Sun Chuanfang. The Ma, Xinjiang and Sichuan clique would also recognize the Qing government, but the Kuomintang in the south defies them. But Germany and the Beijing government help the old Guangxi clique in their war against Guangdong, and Sun Yat-sen flees in exile. Yunnan then submits. In the agreement between the Qing and Germans, Germany got the port cities of Ningbo, Wenzhou, Fuzhou, Xiamen and Guangzhou. The British Civil War caused the collapse of the British Empire. Germany took Nigeria, Ghana, Zambia and Malawi, while France occupies Gambia and Sierra Leone until the Crown returns. South Africa also occupies the rest of British South African colonies. In the Middle East, the Ottomans take Kuwait and Qatar and establish a puppet regime in the Trucial States, Oman and Aden under Tamar bin Faisal. Germany took Burma, Malaya, Hong Kong, Niue and New Guinea, while the Dutch took North Borneo. In India, the north becomes the Republic of India under Jawaharlal Nehru, with the majority Muslim regions becoming the Republic of Pakistan under Muhammad Ali Jinnah, and Afghanistan took Pashtistan. The crown was only left with the majority Dravidian south, which becomes the Dominion of India. Only the south of India, Canada, West Indies and Australasia were left. In 1938, Anton Denikin launches the invasion of Moscow, starting the Third World War. At the start of the war, Germany launched a massive blitzkrieg invasion into France. They managed to quickly take them out and push the Allies to the Loire River and Brittany. Then the Ottomans joined the war and invaded Sicily, taking away pressure from Germany. In the east, Russia pushed Germany out of Moscow and besieges St. Petersburg. They also pushed to the Caucasus. The French government joined the war on the side of Germany and invaded southern France, causing the Commune to collapse. Italy was also forced to make peace. Germany then launched a counter-offensive into Russia and pushed Russia back. The next year, in 1940, they push Russia to the Urals and force them to surrender. That same year, both British exiles and Germans land in Britain, and the communist regime collapses. Together with China, they also make Japan surrender by 1941. France is split along the Loire River, with the north becoming the Kingdom of France under Oscar I, while the south becomes the French Third Empire under Napoleon VI. The Union of Britain is split along the north-south divide, with the north becoming the Kingdom of Great Britain under George VI, and the south being a German client state under Waldemar as William IV, followed by his brother William V in 1945. The Kingdom of the Two Sicilies becomes a French client state, while the Kingdom of Two Sicilies, Grand Duchy of Tuscany, Duchy of Modena and Reggio, and Kingdom of Lombardy-Venetia are German vassal states, with the latter being ruled by the Philip of Hesse, who is the nephew of Wilhelm II. Russia lost all lands east of the Urals to the Tsardom of Russia, with Central Asia uniting into the Khanate of Turkestan under Mir Muhammad Alim Khan. China also takes all lands that were before the century of humiliation a part of China in Central Asia and Outer Manchuria. Korea becomes a Chinese client state, and China annexes Taiwan. Japan is split between a Chinese, German and British occupation zone. In 1941 Wilhelm II dies, and Wilhelm III becomes emperor. A three-way Cold War between the Entente led by the United States, Europa Pact led by Germany, and SCO led by China emerges. Decolonization would still happen, but it would be slower as the Europeans would fight for their colonies. In Iran, Reza Shah Pahlavi dies in 1944 and his son becomes Shah. In 1979 the monarchy was overthrown by Islamists, but then the Ottoman-Persian War broke out. Unlike Iraq, the Ottomans defeat Iran and annex Kurdistan, Lorestan and Khuzestan, while Azerbaijan takes Iranian Azerbaijan. Iran becomes a puppet state under the Qajar dynasty. In 1945 Germany tests its first nuclear weapon in the deserts of German Southwest Africa. In Namibia, Germany would encourage Germans to settle, and the country would be majority white. It would basically be a more apartheid Rhodesia. But the United States of America, Empire of the Great King, Russian Republic, French Third Empire, Kingdom of Great Britain, Republic of India, and the Subul Ottoman state would also develop their own nukes. In 1951 Wilhelm III dies and Wilhelm IV becomes emperor. In 1955 the Tokyo Accords are signed. Germany, China and Great Britain withdraw from Japan under the condition that they stay neutral and never remilitarize. Egypt would declare independence in 1956 and invade the Ottoman Empire. But their offensive was quickly stalled, and they are pushed back. Then the Ottomans cross the Suez and push towards Cairo. But the Egyptians won a surprising victory and the war froze along the Suez. This Suez crisis ended with the Jerusalem Accords between Germany, the Ottoman Empire and Egypt. Egypt becomes independent, and the Ottoman Empire annexes the Sinai Peninsula. The Suez is occupied by Germany. This could be followed by an oil crisis, as the Ottomans were by far the largest oil producer, as they own modern-day Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Kuwait, Libya, Qatar, Azerbaijan, Oman, Yemen, Syria, Romania, Tunisia, Turkey, Bahrain, Albania, Serbia, Croatia, Georgia, Bulgaria, Israel, Hungary, Greece, Slovakia and Jordan. The 1950s also saw revolutions in German puppet states in Eastern Europe, but these were violently crushed by tanks. The Vietnam War still happens, but it would be between an absolutist regime in the south supported by Germany, and an authoritarian dictatorship supported by China. Germany launched an invasion all the way to the Red River, but then the Chinese launched an invasion. The war froze where it begun, and after 3 years of fighting a truce is signed. The 60s would also see the moon landing by the German Empire. The space program was led by Werner von Braun. The astronauts to land on the moon were Sigmund Jähn, Eberhard Kallner, and Ulf Merbold. In 1990 Wilhelm IV dies and his nephew George Friedrich becomes emperor as Friedrich IV. Under Friedrich a time of détente occurs, and the Cold War and the threat of nuclear war cool down. 9/11 probably wouldn't happen, as the US didn't mess with Middle Eastern politics, and thus Afghanistan would never get invaded. And without a Soviet invasion they would be more stable and less radical. They would still be an authoritarian dictatorship, or maybe remain a monarchy. In the Arab Spring, Arabs rose up against Ottoman rule. Egypt and the United States supported the Arabs, while Germany sent an expeditionary force into the Middle East. In the end the Ottomans crushed the revolt. partly because they split into the Islamist State of Arabia, Hashemite Kingdom of Arabia and Republic of Arabia, but the Constantinople Agreement is signed giving every citizen of the Ottoman Empire equal rights and federalizing the empire. The Emirate of Tripolitania in modern-day Libya and Tunisia, the Emirate of Jebel Shamr in modern-day Saudi Arabia, the Sultanate of Oman and Muscat and Sublime State of Iran all became independent due to the civil war, but still keep friendly relations with the Ottomans, especially Jebel Shamr. On January 1, 2018, Algeria, Comoros, Djibouti, Egypt, Jebel Shamr, Mauritania, Morocco, Oman, Somalia and Tripolitania formed the Arab League. By 2023, the three great powers remain the German Empire, Empire of the Great King, and the United States of America. In this timeline, with Frederick the Great becoming 100 years old, Prussia would be a far more dominant power, and Germany would be formed in 1848. In this timeline, after 3 world wars, Germany would dominate almost the entire European continent both militarily and economically. If you liked the episode, leave a like, and don't forget to subscribe. Goodbye.